Welcome to CIACon, an open community of cybersecurity researchers. This is Security Testing with Raspberry Pi, and I am your host, Daniel Dieterle. First, a little bit about me. I started in IT support. Over the years, I supported the servers and networks of hundreds of companies across New York State. I have also worked in large corporate data centers and even an Ivy League school. I've been in the security field for a little over now 10 years as a security researcher, consultant, and author. I am an internationally published security author and currently working on my 7th security book. This talk will be about using IoT devices, mainly Raspberry Pis, in the security field. Kali Linux is one of the most popular distributions for penetration testing and security assessments. It is fairly easy to use, especially if you have Debian Linux experience, and it is loaded with security tools. It is used heavily by pen testers and red teams, and the official certifications for Kali are some of the most coveted certifications by new security personnel. It can be run on a desktop in many different ways. You can install it and run it via USB, directly load it as the main operating system. You could dual boot it with another OS, run it in a virtual machine, use it directly on Windows 10 and the Windows subsystem for Linux, or even in a cloud instance. Virtual machine usage is very popular, as you can quickly set up a pen test learning lab with just Kali Linux and a handful of targets, like Metasploitable 3, Windows 10, or Windows Server 2019. But that's not why we're here today. Kali Linux can also run on many ARM-based IoT devices and even Android phones. In this talk, we'll focus on Raspberry Pi. Many would think that these are cut down or reduced versions of Kali Linux, but they aren't. Most ARM-based Kali Linux images contain the entire operating system, and all the standard tools are available for download. Granted, some tools won't run natively on ARM, but most do without any problem at all. So, for a fraction of the price of a full desktop, the Raspberry Pi Zero costs $10. The Raspberry Pi 4 starts at around $35 American dollars. You could have a fully functional security testing system in a small box. Because of the cheap price and the small stealthy size, RPIs are also very popular by pen testers and red teamers, using them as drop boxes. Drop boxes are basically hacker boxes left on a target site during physical security site tests that the pen tester can remote into later and access the target's internal network. You have a lot of capability with using the Pi by itself, but you can also use a ton of add-on devices to further increase the Pi's capabilities. You can also interface with a lot of industry testing tools with the Raspberry Pi. A lot of the Hack5 devices will work great with an RPI. Common add-on devices are USB Wi-Fi antennas, software-defined radios, Bluetooth, and RF scanning devices. There are also a lot of add-on hat devices that plug directly onto the Pi. Devices like screens, or as pictured in this display, an IoT Edge AI computing board that could connect to hundreds of different Grove sensors. We will get to other uses for a Pi in a minute, but first let's talk about running Kali Linux on a Raspberry Pi. To get started, just download the Raspberry Pi ARM image from the Offensive Security website, write the image to a memory card, pop it in, and boot it up. It really is that easy. In a few seconds, you'll see a full Kali Linux graphical desktop on the Pi 4, just as it were a regular desktop computer. You can install Kali Linux on a headless Pi, one that has no video display, and then you just SSH into it to operate it. Or you can hook it up to a regular HDMI monitor, use any of a number of LCD display boards, or use the 7-inch official Raspberry Pi touchscreen display, as seen here. The only difference between regular Kali Linux and the ARM version is that it comes with a limited number of tools installed. This makes it much easier to set up security testing boxes, or drop boxes. You only install the tools that you actually need. The Kali Linux tools are available in what are called meta packages. These are tools separated by category names. For example, the wireless meta package has all the wireless tools, the forensics package, all the forensics tools, and so on. This way you can create a customized security testing box that doesn't include unnecessary tools, saving the Pi's precious resources. Once the install is finished and you install any meta packages that you want onto Kali using the apt install command, you have a normal, fully functional Kali install. Everything is there and works exactly the same on the Pi 4 as it does on a desktop system or in a virtual machine. You can scan wireless, enumerate networks, use network and application testing tools, exactly as you would on a normal Kali install. You can also install additional or third-party testing tools on the Pi, basically anything that is compatible with ARM. These include some professional level at-cost pen testing tools, but also hardware tools like RF and Zigbee scanners and all the add-on boards and adapters that we talked about earlier. But I don't want to use Kali Linux. You get this a lot in the field. Some people love Kali, some hate it. And the truth is, you don't really need it. In the Linux world, you can install your favorite security tool on your favorite flavor of Linux. The same is true in the ARM world. Well, kinda. Not every Linux distro has an ARM-compatible version, but you can always just use Raspberry Pi OS, or Raspbian as it used to be called. Raspberry Pi OS actually works really well for the security field, and unlike Kali, it has full support for the traditional Raspberry Pi features. Like software to run the Raspberry Pi cameras, it is also very easy to interface with RPI input-output pins using Raspbian, or Raspberry OS. But just from a security standpoint alone, you can apt install many of the security tools from the terminal, and they work perfectly fine. Like this example here, I simply just installed Nmap as I would on Kali Linux or any other Linux distribution, and it works perfectly fine. But what if you have a lot of security tools that you want to install and you don't want to install them one at a time? I actually ran into this question when I was writing my security testing with the Raspberry Pi book, and I found a solution. The Pentesters Framework is a fully customizable security tool that installs security tools, and it works great on the Raspberry Pi. Well, it works pretty good on the Raspberry Pi. Some of the tools it installs by default are not ARM compatible, though, as the Pentesters Framework is completely customizable, you can configure it to only install the tools that work and the tools that you're going to actually use. When you run PTF, you select the tools you want to install, and then it does its thing. It automatically downloads, compiles if necessary, and installs all the tools that you selected. When it is finished, you have a weaponized Raspberry Pi, all set for your security tests. One of the tools you can install with PTF is Sniper. Sniper is an automated web server scanner and attack tool created by 0 Days. Sniper is fully automated. Just select your command line options and set the target, and Sniper begins to automatically enumerate and scan the target using multiple scanners and web app security tools. If it finds a vulnerability or multiple vulnerabilities, it will automatically attempt to open a remote shell with the target using an exploit. It works equally well against Linux-based and Windows web servers. You can download and use a standard version for free. The professional version is at cost, but has been a go-to tool for many professional pen testers. One pen testing company I know loads up multiple Raspberry Pis with Sniper and leaves them laying around the target company's site when doing the physical access part of their pen test. They can then remotely access and security test through the RPIs. Warberry Pi is another security tool that was developed specifically for the RPI. It also was created for Red Team Dropbox use and was designed to hide on a target network and be as stealthy as possible while it collected data. Wareberry analyzes existing traffic and can perform auto-analysis and attack. It has stealth features built in. It can even pretend to be a printer, so it blends into a large network environment. It also has the ability to emulate a MAC address of an existing device, further improving its stealth. Lastly, you can set up a covert 3G channel with Wareberry so it can be accessed remotely from anywhere. The Raspberry Pi can also be used as a cybersecurity learning lab or as a target itself to help teach or to learn computer security. Raspone is an all-in-one security learning lab based on the Raspberry Pi 3. It is loaded with multiple vulnerable web apps and services. The OS runs multiple servers and is designed to run via Wi-Fi, so you can basically have a complete self-contained lab all on one RPI. Just connect to the Raspberry Pi via Wi-Fi and use your favorite pen testing tools to test away. Damn Vulnerable Pi, or DVPi, was another great use for a Raspberry Pi. It is a purposely vulnerable Pi image that you could try to break into, kind of like a CTF challenge. This one worked even better if you had an LCD touchscreen display, as you could interact with the menu buttons on the front of the panel. Basically, you just burned a DVPi image, set up your display, and you had a ready-to-use pen test target. As I mentioned before, not everything that works on Linux will run on ARM. One specific program is Docker. If Docker images don't have ARM support included when they're created, they will not run correctly on a Pi. Though some popular testing tools have been modified so they run correctly on a Raspberry Pi, one example of this is OWASP JuiceShop. JuiceShop is a popular insecure web app that is used in security training, capture the flag competitions, and is a great tool to practice your cybersecurity skills. What's even better is that it runs great on a $35 Raspberry Pi. This was just a quick overview of using Raspberry Pi as both a cybersecurity attack system and as a target. Hopefully I demonstrated that the Pi is very capable for both tasks, and that the price point for a Pi makes it a very attractive platform for the security industry. I go much deeper into all these topics in my book, Security Testing with the Raspberry Pi, available on Amazon.com.